Mr. J, welcome to Podcastina.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, Delina.
Thanks for being here. Do you mind if we start with a little bit of your background and what it is you do?
Yeah, certainly. So I am Mr. J. Born and raised in upstate New York, and spent many of my youth pursuing film and television. So I have a theater background. So you might see me get a little theatrical on this podcast. I then found myself walking into the education industry where I became a certified special education instructor. Did that for almost about 20 years. And when we adopted children, one of us wanted to stay home. The decision was I would, especially because I have an education background. I stayed home, and now that both of our kids are in middle and high school, um, uh, actually found myself uh, wanting to do something, wasn't sure what, but life had, as it usually does, life had a different plan. I very unexpectedly lost my father, and I was extremely close with my father when he passed away. So I'm talking one time on the phone, we're laughing and telling jokes and going back and forth, and 4 days later we're lowering his body into the ground. And my body went into shock because I wasn't, it was too overwhelming for me to handle all that. And so I wanted to, so 3 days after that, I wound up having my first panic attack in the middle of the night. And I'm really rushing the story, but it was in the process of trying to undo and find out what in the world was this panic attack all about. And it really led to the world of trauma, which is fascinating. Then I found the world of betrayal trauma, which we can certainly get into, which I found is even more of a niche and it's even more fascinating. And long story short, I wound up talking with the CEO of a company who I trained under to be certified as a betrayal trauma practitioner. And now for years, that's what I've been doing is helping people on this very tough journey, navigating the painful process of, I'll say healing, but really there's not really healing. And I know I might kind of like put some people off when I say that. I believe more in integrating our grief and our pain rather than healing something. Um, but that's what I do now is help people help themselves on the healing journey or the integrating journey to of betrayal trauma. And I'll stop there, but certainly there's a lot more.
Yeah, what is it that makes betrayal different than regular trauma?
Great question. Non-betrayal trauma is different from betrayal trauma for various reasons, but for this interview, let's just say I'll give you three reasons. Number one, it's the whole personalization of it all. If we lose a parent, that could be traumatic, but we don't look at ourselves and say, "What did I do wrong?" I mean, unless we did something to them, but that's a whole nother story. We don't question our self-worth, we don't question our self-love, we don't question our self-identity, but we do when it's a betrayal trauma. The second is it's the whole secrecy, the aloneness, the loneliness of healing, that when you do lose somebody, let's just say a parent or someone, or even get into a car accident, you have, you can call your boss and get, some time off of work. You have friends and family bringing you macaroni and cheese and lasagna saying, "I'm so sorry." You get cards. When you discover the person you trusted and loved the most in life has been secretly doing things behind your back, we don't want to yell it from the rooftops, although many people do, but then they regret it. But again, that's a whole nother thing. And so we live with this secrecy, and that just brings so much more loneliness and shame into the whole healing process, making healing difficult or integrating again. And the last reason betrayal trauma is different from non betrayal trauma is trauma in and of itself, trauma, non betrayal trauma affects the here and now and the future. Betrayal trauma is the only trauma that also affects the past because now we can't. Uh, Visit certain restaurants if the affair partner took our spouse there, our spouse took the affair partner there, or now we can't look at family photo albums because we're like, well, wait a minute, when he or she said they were leaving because they had to go to a meeting, were they actually at a meeting or were they meeting up with somebody? So now your whole entire past is affected, which, by the way, and I don't want to trail off and derail, one of the biggest reasons why the past is so important is something that betrayal trauma does is it really, really, really messes and destroys and damages our hippocampus and the part of our brain that is in charge of our hippocampus is like a filing cabinet, right? So it's like, okay, I know when I had my first child. I know when I got married. I know when I had my first period. I know when I kissed my first girl or boy. I know, and the reason why predictability is important in this filing cabinet in our life is important is because predictability gives us safety. Hey, tonight's Taco Tuesday in my family. Tomorrow I have to bring my son to softball. Predictability keeps us safe. When we encounter a betrayal, that part of our hippocampus, our brain, is completely mauled. And now we question everything. It's like, well, wait a minute. It's like when somebody will take out this filing cabinet, walk up a mountain, turn it upside down on a windy day, and now the files are scattered all over. You don't know what's real. And now you're going back just to feel safe, putting those files back in your filing cabinet, saying, well, wait a minute. Did this happen before this? Because your timeline's all screwed up from trauma. Did that happen before this? Well, wait a minute. Here's a file when he or she said that they were going to, Toronto for a business trip. Were they really in Toronto for a business? Everything's screwed up now, and you don't feel it adds to the unsafety that you're already marinating in while you're trying to heal from betrayal. So those are three reasons why betrayal trauma differs from, say, non-betrayal trauma.
That makes sense. It's the shame element of it where, we don't question ourselves if like a family member passes away. That in and of itself is its own trauma. But as you were saying, you don't go back in time and go, oh, could I have done things differently? You don't make it about you. You don't hesitate to share that with people because you might get judged. So it's interesting, that component of it where it really impacts your viewpoint on the past. Like I hadn't really thought of that. Is there like a specific place that betrayal issues come from? Are certain people a little more sensitive to betrayal?
Okay, so first, I just want to really quickly say something to the point you just made. Um, Betrayal trauma ruptures our identity,
Mm,
and oftentimes, what happens? Okay, I'm going to be all over the board like a spastic, so I apologize. I just really quickly want to say something up. There's something called betrayal blindness. Okay, betrayal blindness is a part of our fight flight nervous system. It's a part of our freeze fight, all the f's, especially when it comes to betrayal. There's f it, there's all this other f's, but there's just a fight flight freeze, whatever. So it's a natural part of our body. Actually, it's a natural part of our nervous system. Betrayal blindness is meant to keep us safe, but what it does is it bites us in the butt. So really quickly, we've all heard of the story of Little Red Riding Hood. She knows there's a scary wolf in the woods. She knows that, but she has blinders on. She wants to see her grandmother, right? So she walks through the scary forest, knowing very well the dangers that are in there, and she knocks on her grandmother's door, but something inside of her just says, "Ooh, there's an alarm going off," because usually grandma says, "Who is it?" I don't hear grandma saying, "Who is it?" So something's up, but I want to see my grandmother so badly. Betrayal blindness comes in and it suppresses the fear just so I can get what I want. So I open up the door. Hey, grandma, are you home? I don't hear anything. My intuition now is screaming at me. So really, I should lean into that and run. What do? Betrayal blindness comes in, suppresses the fear. Now I go in the back room. I know it's not my grandma because I'm saying, why in the world do you have a long mouth, beady eyes, sharp teeth? Come on. I didn't run, so I get eaten by the wolf, right? Here's what's happening. A lot of times we're in a relationship with someone, and for this interview, let's just say it's a spousal one, but you can have betrayal trauma from other sources, which if I'm happy to get into that if you want. But for this interview, let's just say it's a spousal partner betrayal. What happens is we will be in, like, say, his or her car, and we'll find some lipstick or some blonde hair or something, and immediately our gut, our intuition, our instinct is telling us something's off, but logically betrayal blindness kicks in, and we're like, oh, my spouse is so nice, he gave his coworker a ride home, that's what the blonde hair is for. Or, oh, my girlfriend's so nice, I saw her at Starbucks having coffee with her boss because he's going through a divorce, she's so nice, what. That's betrayal blindness. It's really meant to calm the fear, to keep us safe in the moment. Because let's just say, if we were to act on our intuition, and really a bomb was to come off in our life, now we're thinking, wait a minute, I just got married, we just spent $30,000 on a wedding, oh my god, is all that going to go to waste? And now I got to be embarrassed with my friends and family because they were there. And wait a minute, we have kids, are they going to have to visit us every other weekend now if we go through a divorce? I don't want to do all that. No, this all happens on a subconscious level. I don't want to do all that, so betrayal blindness kicks in. And now what happens is that the sad part is that when the rubber hits the road and we now acknowledge the betrayal and it hits us in the face, now we're trying to heal from that bomb, that shock, that devastation, when we've dishonored our own identity for so long, not leaning into what we knew was the truth. So I just wanted to say that because you just mentioned that we question ourselves, and that was a really good spot on perception. But so much of this is now I'm trying to heal who in the world I am now when I've distanced myself so much from who I am. So it's a mind F.
Oh my goodness. It brings up so much for me. And this is a very niche example, perhaps, but I'm currently watching Real Housewives of Rhode Island. And one of the storylines is this woman, Rula. Her husband is obviously cheating on her. All of the other women, they keep finding videos, they keep finding like tangible proof. And this poor woman is going, well, that's AI. Well, anybody can, make any kind of video or any kind of image that they want. And he tells me one thing. So I know that. And you just see this exact scenario that you just described playing out. And for people that don't watch that show, we've all seen that. And it's so unfortunate because these defense mechanisms that come installed in us are there to protect us. But perhaps the answer is what I talk about in so many different episodes with so many different experts in different fields. Like, you have to find that mind body connection, and you have to trust, like, learn to trust the initial instinct, which is telling you something is going on, and kind of fight against that impulse to do the denial piece of it. But that's really hard to do because physiologically, it's there for our brain to protect us. Would you say this type of sensitivity or tendency to betrayal blindness has anything to do with like attachment styles?
So it very good question. And which leads me to, I want to also answer your last question, which I never did, and I apologize. So there is some research that shows people with certain attachment styles have more of a tendency for betrayal blindness to be listened to. Now, betrayal blindness happens to all of us. All
Hmm.
of us. I mean, think of it. Even if you get a call and somebody gives you some juicy gossip, you're like, no way. Like your brain needs some time to catch up with it. We all encounter, even on a micro level, some betrayal blindness. But yes, there are some, not only attachment styles, but also people that have, let's just say, neglect or abandonment in their past. Now they're fighting. I don't want to be abandoned, so I refuse to look into this. People that also, let's just say, are just getting over a sour relationship and they get into another relationship, they're so determined to keep this next relationship at any cost, they will lean more into betrayal blindness. Now, really quickly, you were asking before about, uh, uh, if some people are more apt to cheating. And if I heard you correctly, and please correct me if I didn't, I, there, I know I'm going to really trigger probably some of your listeners. But first of all, we do understand that not everybody with ADHD cheats, but a good majority of people who betray and cheat do have ADHD. That's number
Wow.
one. Okay. Number two, we also know that people that betray have a high percentage of being uh, avoidant from a attachment standpoint. Now, there's also research, and here's where I'm really going to be called names by your listeners. There is a genetic component researchers have found to betrayal. Um, Now, it's more of an epigenetic. So basically, there is a genetic code. It's called DRD4. And what it is a thrill seeking gene. And what they've found is the majority, well, a good majority of people that have cheated or betrayed or unfaithful, adultery, infidelity, do carry this gene, DRD4, which is a gene where they're constantly seeking excitement and thrill. And what do new loves give us? Excitement and thrill. Not to excuse anything, not to rationalize anything, certainly not to dismiss anything, but just to give this conversation more context.
That makes perfect sense. I actually have heard that before. I didn't know that when you first started talking about it. I was like, where is he going with this? And it actually is true. So I forget which book it was that I read that talked about this, but people with both ADHD and adrenaline chasing, they have kind of a broken internal meter for dopamine. So, in order for them to get a dopaminergic hit, they need to do something way more extreme than someone who can get a dopamine hit off something like, smelling a pretty flower. It needs to be something so extreme because their levels are so messed up of those happy chemicals that it takes something insane for them to feel like a kind of normal level of satisfaction.
Absolutely, 100%. And this is why there's a lot. I work with a lot of sex addicts, although depending on what mental health professional you ask, some will say there's no such thing as a sexual addiction, but I'm not going to go there. I work with sex addicts, and one of the things that is they often will get involved with unsafe behaviors. And the reason why is because not only do they need that dopamine rush of meeting somebody new and getting that validation, but it's also that I need that excitement. I need that adrenaline rush. So let's do this in a parking lot. Let's do this in the fields outside of a city or whatever, where there's a potential of getting caught, whatever. Now, a lot of these people are white collared professionals and their lives would be dismantled. They don't want to get caught, but they need that rush. So it's kind of complex.
Outside of the chemical motivators, perhaps the things that we're inheriting and have no control over, is there another reason that people tend to cheat that's kind of more common than other reasons?
Yes. Uh, Listen, I tell couples all the time when I'm working with them, you have to get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. And a lot of couples, for some reason, instead of having an uncomfortable conversation, will just start putting their be- energy and time and focus on someone else. So that's number one, is that you are uncomfortable, which is why a lot of avoiders will find themselves in, well, I hate the saying find themselves. No, nobody trips and finds themselves into a vagina, but sorry to be so graphic, but um and I also don't like the word mistake either. Um,
Mhm.
because infidelity, cheating, affairs, they are number one, a million micro justifications, and number two, deliberate and intentional decisions. Now, do I have a heart for people that step out of the relationship? I do, because this is my field and I understand they did what they did from a place of wounds and brokenness. Having said that, I don't subscribe to the I mean, if you want to say I made a mistake, meaning I did this once, it was a one-time thing, I was drinking, I was hurting, I was this, it'll never happen again. Maybe you can mix a little bit of that definition of mistake in there somewhere, but let it be very known mistake does not belong in infidelity whatsoever. And if I do give you that allowance, not that I'm the almighty king of whatever, but if I do give you that allowance of saying mistake, then it better be a one and done, because once is a mistake, two is a decision, more than that is malicious intent. Okay, I digress. People that have had um, uh, very little validation in their childhood will absolutely seek external validation constantly when they grow up. People that are people pleasers, I find that a lot with people that betray. Got to be very careful with people pleasers. um, people that have coping mechanisms that are weak and not strong. So, yeah, we have to be very careful with our coping mechanisms. We have to know our coping mechanisms. People that have poor boundaries, people that not only have poor boundaries, also people that have boundaries, but they're poor at enforcing their boundaries. So there's a ton of reasons why people, um, again, I hate this, but find themselves in some type of affair or infidelity. But let it be known that infidelity, affairs, they are a drug of choice. It's just like, how some people cut to numb the pain. People get into affairs to not in my research, not in my field, not in my work, not in my experience, and I don't mean personal, I mean working with couples. um, People don't get into affairs or cheat because they're looking for somebody else. They do it because they're looking to become somebody else, because they
Mm,
don't like what they see in the mirror.
yeah, some of that is pretty intuitive, where it's like if a person has poor boundaries, that totally makes sense that they might end up cheating, or even the justification of it. But this isn't an original thought for me to be sitting here and be like, oh yeah, it's not one mistake, it's been done. There's even been comedians that have done like jokes about it, where it's like, well, you didn't make one mistake because you stepped into this person's house, you kissed this person, you put your hand on their neck, you took their pants off, you took your pants. It is like 1,000 little decisions where at any point you could have put a stop to it, and you just kept being like, no, no, we're just gonna move forward with this and cheat, and it happens. um do you think on the flip side that there's a personality type that's more likely to be cheated on?
So yes ish, but I do want to say this really quickly just to kind of end what you were just saying, because you bring up some really good points. um there is something called a fair fog, and there is something called the thrill, the high of the thrill. So, and I want to play devil's advocate here with both ends. On one end, I absolutely subscribe to, listen, you made the decision to DM that person. You made the decision to answer that DM. You made the decision to hide this from your spouse or hide it from your partner. You made the decision to get into your car and drive to their house. You made so yes, there's a million justifications. Yes, yes, yes. Now, just to play devil's advocate, once somebody gets into a fair fog or thrill, some mental health professionals will say there was only one decision, and that was to answer that ad. Then the high came, and then it was the thrill of the high. So they weren't making logical decisions. Therefore, it wasn't many justifications because they weren't making logical decisions. They were now just simply pursuing the thrill of the high. It's almost like, if you have a cat, anybody has a cat, the minute they see something go past them, they don't make a decision. Their tail goes up and they just start running after whatever it is. Well, you
Hmm.
can't stop a cheetah in the middle of pursuing a gazelle and say, "Wait a minute, are you making logical decisions?" No, instinct just kicked in. That cheetah's after that gazelle. So, in one way, yes, there are a lot of decisions being made in the whole process. In another hand, it's like once I'm in that pursuing thrill mode, there's no decisions I'm making. I'm pursuing that high. Okay, now to answer your question, I apologize. Are there people that are susceptible to being betrayed? Um, yes, kind of the same thing that I said before, only the opposite. People with low self esteem, people with low self worth, people pleasers, people that don't have boundaries, kind of the same thing. People that
Mm.
don't enforce their boundaries, people that will get into a relationship and I'm going to work this. My last one wound up in horror. I'm going to make this one work no matter what. Um, people, people that, now this is where I'm going to offend some of your listeners again. People that struggle with having high standards themselves. And I say this because I'm not going to say that, if you don't have self love, you can't love others or whatever. I mean, although some people would say that. But I will say you can't pour from an empty cup. So what you don't have, you will tolerate in others. So it's very careful that, listen, one of the things that I do in my field, I'm not only a betrayal trauma practitioner, but I'm also what's called an intrapersonal relationship coach. And what I do is I help people with the relationship they have with themselves. Because I always say the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone and standard for all relationships around you. I try to give, I'm also a wedding officiant. So, I sometimes marry couples and I tell them, "Do you want some premarital coaching?" Because I can't tell you how many times I'm in front of a young couple officiating a wedding, and I'm thinking they're exchanging the I do's, and they don't even know who the I am is. So really getting to know yourself and continually, because I always say we're far more than human beings, we're human evolutions. We're constantly growing, we're constantly learning, we're constantly changing. Which in a long-term relationship, not only do you have to kind of get to know who you are all the time, you constantly have to build those bridges to get to know who your partner is all the time. So life is a fragile dance, but man, when you put couples together, it becomes even more of a very fragile dance. Then when you put a bomb in there of infidelity, now repairing that and healing that is even more of a sensitive, fragile dance. So life is fragile.
It is. And I heard somewhere that something that you shouldn't do if you've had like really bad relationships in the past is if you're now getting into a new relationship and you're sharing with that person how bad the last one was, the kind of instinct of the person receiving it, and if it's a the new partner is not like able to have operate from integrity 100% of the time, because who is, you're kind of telling that new partner, hey, here's what's been fine in the past, and you're showing them how low your bar is, and then they're going to think, well, I don't need to do that much to pass that low of a bar and still be accepted by you. So you're almost muddying the waters at the start to be like, hey, it's okay to cheat on me because look how much cheating I've accepted in the past. And I'm telling you up front that those are my standards.
Yeah, that is true. That is absolutely very true. I would say, with the exception of, because every time you have a conversation with somebody, your energy comes forth. It's like this. It's like if a woman tells somebody that she's had, let's just say, a miscarriage, right? And I'm sorry if I'm triggering anybody. Um, well, let's just say a woman's telling me this. I'm not a woman. I can't miscarry. I can do all the head nodding and cry and say I'm sorry and understand, but it's a different conversation than if that woman's talking to another woman who had a miscarriage. So I agree with everything you're saying, with the exception of if somebody has done that in the past and they've rebuilt and repaired and renewed themselves and now their boundaries are different, whatever. Now their energy is coming across of, I was a different person when I let this happen before, but oh, hell's to the so no, that will never happen again in my life. So, but yeah, so you're absolutely right. Because I don't want people to like hide their past if they're in a good relationship. But at the same token, man, work on yourself as much as possible before you get into the next relationship.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's interesting, the shift culturally that's going on with the rise of like polyamory and thruples and these terms that I wasn't hearing until, 5, 10 years ago. How do you think that correlates with betrayal trauma? Do you think it's people are like working against nature saying that they're okay with that? Or are people so evolved in these thruples that cheating doesn't bother them?
Yeah, yeah. Great question. So, full disclosure, I have very limited knowledge, research, and experience with the whole consensual non-monogamy and polygamy, which I know is completely different things and things like that. A lot of things come down to this. There are written and unwritten rules of every contract every couple needs to follow. Did you betray those unwritten rules or those rules? If you have one person, because I have my own personal rules with myself, if you have one person, if you have two people, a couple, if you have a throuple, if you have a group of 900 people in a relationship, everybody has written and unwritten rules. And if you break those written or unwritten rules, which is why constant communication, constant conversation is needed, that's a betrayal. So I hope that answered your question. You have to. betray the written or the unwritten rules. And that's with any couple, throuple, single person, what have you.
If someone gets cheated on, they're completely obviously devastated by it. Is there a way, like, can you ever really 100% recover from that should you choose to stay in the relationship?
Okay, so no, you don't. You absolutely don't. 100% you don't. But let me ask you a question. Have you lost somebody very near and dear to you to a death?
Hmm.
Will you ever get over their loss?
No.
No, never. Okay. Now, since I answered it that way, now let me give everybody the good news. That's repairing and rebuilding after broken trust. I don't like the word get over. I don't like the word heal. I don't like the word, whatever, because betrayal accompanies grief. Three different types of grief. Just like there's differences with betrayal trauma and non-betrayal trauma. You have grief for the loss of innocence. That's your past. You have grief of loss of yourself, your identity. That's the present. And you have grief of the story that you had in your mind of your future. That's grief. You're never going to get over that grief. However, can you integrate what happened to you? Can you learn how to deal with that grief? Learn how to deal with all of the shock and the shame and the betrayal and the hurt and the frustration and the repulsion and the dirt. And trust me, there's a lot here. Yes, you can. And then you can actually look at the person you're with as a completely different person. I say all the time, when you discover there's broken trust in your relationship, you go from BC to AC. Your partner cut the timeline of your relationship. It's like the trade centers. There's no such thing as building up the trade centers. You demolish those trade centers. You get rid of all of that. You just rebuild something new. And oftentimes, and I say this from personal experience, not personal with my relationship, I'm saying personal experience with my career, oftentimes the new, actually studies show this, research shows us, oftentimes is much healthier, better, and happier than the previous relationship. So do you ever get over it or heal from it? No, no. But can you thrive afterwards? Absolutely. And many couples do. I can't tell you how many couples I work with. Horrific betrayals. Horrific. Long I'm working with a couple right now, 38-year affair. 38-year affair.
What?
Absolutely. Uh, I mean, they're obviously an older couple. They've been at this healing now going on 12 years. Oh my gosh, the conversations they're having, the love they have, the respect they have, the attunement they have, and it's from authenticity. It's not, I was scared of a divorce, let me lean into my partner. No, no. Both parties were very broken for different reasons. And with all of, I'm telling you something, affairs are like the big cocoon opener. Both party was in a cocoon. One was in a cocoon of pain and whatever, and the other was in a cocoon of unawareness. Now both come out of their cocoons. If you both do the work, you can both turn into a beautiful butterfly. And I say all the time, you might have lost your happily ever after, but you most certainly can have your happily even after.
Oh, I like that phrasing. Uh, just to make like a distinction, I don't mean like a long-term affair with a single person. Should someone take back or continue to see a serial cheater, someone who's repeatedly cheated with tons of partners?
You mean after D-Day, after the day of, or are you talking about, because I work with a lot of sex addicts who have had over 200 sexual partners in the marriage, and people are still together after that.
Whoa.
Are you saying after the big destruction, now we know, now we're working on it, and now you still cheated?
Yeah. Well, I guess either one.
Okay, so I am working with a couple right now. Well, a couple of them, where the one of them does have a sex addiction. has had well over 200 partners throughout the marriage. They are working on it. They're doing quite well, actually. Um, Now, but let me just say this. I always tell people, couples, whatever, people can get over cheating. People can get over infidelity. People can get over affairs. What people can and will not get over are games that are played afterwards. So if you come to me, I'm not me, I'm just saying the average person. If you come to somebody and say, whoa, do I got something to tell you and it's going to blow your life apart? And you give the news and you disclose whatever happened, two people can work that out, whatever it is. I mean, listen, I'm working with couples that the affair partner got pregnant now, and now they have to incorporate a child into, this whole dynamic. I'm working with couples now where the wife, the wife who was faithful, after the husband's disclosure, he broke it off with the affair partner. The affair partner got so upset, she broke into the house in the middle of the night, poured gasoline on the wife, lit her on fire. She's got third-degree burns all throughout her face. They're doing fantastic. They're doing fantastic. And the reason I say this is because, listen, everybody has a non-negotiable. I've also worked with a couple who've been married almost 20 years. The wife said, my non-negotiable was porn. I walked in and I found him watching porn. They're now going through a divorce. The point I'm saying is that everybody has their non-negotiables, and so there's nothing that's going to keep a couple together if they have a non-negotiable and they break it. But there's also nothing that's going to keep a couple apart if both of them don't come together and be committed and dedicated that they want to work it out. Now, having said that, after D-Day, the slate can be reworked, repaired, rebuilt. But if there's further betrayal after that, the chances of survival are slim. Not to say I haven't seen it, and not to say that there aren't successful people, because there are plenty of them, but it makes the healing journey profound. It sets it back, not just to square one, before square one. So yes, I say people can get over infidelity, cheating, affairs. People can't get over the games after. You got to say, because one of the reasons why is because if you're betrayed, the other person has to be working hard to become somebody completely different. Because I always say, you can stay with the person who looks the same, smells the same, talks the same, and acts the same. But if they give the same characteristics of a cheater, you can't be with them. So you can absolutely repair and rebuild with the person who was unfaithful, who hurt you, but not if they're going to continue and do so. Now, do I recommend people that are sex addicts that have relapsed, maybe some therapeutic separation to see if it can, absolutely. There's many ways you can navigate this, but somebody's really, that's got to be the big stopper, disclosure day. It really does. And I just want to, and I'm sorry to digress. One of the things that I say all the time, usually, actually, a good majority of the time, once D-Day happens, disclosure day happens, that usually does stop all future behavior. Not all the time, but usually does. And it's because it's similar to this. Mold and bacteria thrive in dark, moist spots. But if you open up the door and let the sun in, it can't grow anymore. D-Day is like letting the sun into your relationship. It kind of, once that big explosion happens, well, it just stops the mold and the bacteria from growing, usually.
Speaking of that, what do you think of someone making, I know we dismissed one time mistake, but let's just use that framing. If someone makes a one time mistake and they know it would devastate their partner to share that, would you ever recommend skipping D-Day?
No, no. And I'm going to tell you something. If you ask 100 mental health professionals that question, you're going to get probably 100 different answers. I'm going to tell you why. There is what's called and I don't even know who wrote this, and it's somebody famous, and I should know, shame on me. The stinky basement, right? Let's just say you're with somebody, right? And they're down in the basement and they're murdering people and they're cutting up bodies, right? You come home and you're like, what is that smell? And they're like, what are you talking about? Which, first of all, is gaslighting, which we didn't get on that, but that's a whole other thing. Um, the person you're with, their energy is going to be so off because they know they're doing something. Your energy, even logically, might not pick up on that, but your energy is going to pick up on that. So if somebody's cheating, I think their energy is off and it's effing with your energy and it's unfair to you. And I'm sorry, even at the cost of getting a divorce, you don't F with people's energy like that. You don't F with their truth. You don't F with somebody saying, I'm telling you, people have had people don't know their partner, their spouse is doing things. And all of a sudden they'll have a dream and say, oh my God, I just had a dream last week when you were at that party. You slept with someone. What a horrible dream. And then they go on with their day. Little do they know that dream was actually true because something in their nervous system, something in their intuition, something in their energy was telling them something, was giving them energetic vibe. So no, you screw with people's energy. I'm sorry, even if it's at the cost of a divorce, you're effing with people's energy, their intuition. Come out, be a man, woman up, whatever you got to do. Work it out if you have to. Go your separate ways if you have to. But not only is that going to weigh on the person who cheated, because now they have to constantly live in fear. Oh my God, if I go to bed tonight and I talk in my sleep, am I going to reveal what I did? Not only are they going to live in constant, anxiety, your other person's system's effed up. So you're gonna ask that same question to somebody else and be like, no, 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 bring it to your grave. Don't screw up a good thing. No, screw up a damn. First of all, it's not a good thing. It's not honest. It's not authentic. So share.
I love that. What's your best piece of advice to someone who has experienced betrayal and wants to move forward, whether or not the moving forward involves staying in the relationship?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you something. There's a train of thought out there where trauma is not what happened to us. It's the meaning we assign to it. Now, I actually might subscribe to this, and I'm going to tell you why. A lot of times when I'm in a session with a couple, now for this interview, let's just say I'm talking with a male female couple, and let's just say the male stepped out. I may hear the female say, how could you do that to me? Do you feel like I was that worthless? Or another female could say, how can you do that? Do you think I'm that ugly? What she's telling me is this is one of her core wounds. And what we do is we take our core wounds and we attach meaning to our partner's behavior. So if we are betrayed, do your best, especially early on, do your best not to assign your own meaning to their behavior. Because that is a lot of times what traumatizes us. Which I'm telling you something, a lot of times to undo, unravel, or heal from trauma is going back and dismantling the lies that we believed, the lies we were told that we would believe. That's dismantling trauma. And oftentimes it's lies we told ourselves. Oh, my ass was too big. That's why he cheated and wanted somebody else with a smaller ass. What? But now we're trauma. That's the meaning that we assign to it. And now we're going to be traumatized because of that. Now, when we get information, when we just discover a betrayal, it's like quicksand. I'm sorry, it's like quick concrete. They call it quickcrete. It's this powdery substance. You add water to it, and like within minutes, it turns to concrete when you mix it. The minute you hear there's a betrayal in your relationship, that water was poured into the quickcrete. Immediately, you got to tell yourself this had nothing to do with me, and it didn't. It didn't, because I'm telling you something. Marital issues are marital issues. Relationship issues are relationship issues. Once somebody cheated, that became a them issue. I don't care if you bop your spouse on the head with a frying pan every Tuesday, every other Tuesday, and tell them, you're ugly. That's a relationship issue. I hope nobody does that, but I'm just saying that's a marital issue. Once you make a decision, you're going to get out of the marriage and do something in secret. This is a you problem, not a you spouse problem. So people have to immediately say, I don't own this. This had nothing to do with me. I will not attach any of my insecurities to what they did and give myself extra trauma, because in doing so, I'm also elongating my suffering.
Amazing. Well, Mr. J, if people want to learn more about what you're doing or work with you, where should they go?
I have an easy website. It's mrjrelationshipcoach.com. But even if people don't ever want to hear my silly voice or see my funny face, just go to my website and check out my free resources, which hopefully will help everybody in any situation. And again, that's mrjrelationshipcoach.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
Of course. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye.
If you know somebody that would enjoy this episode, feel free to share it with them. And thank you for listening to Galina Ravina Podcastina, the show where I try to be the person my dog thinks I am. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. See you on the next one.